Well, the countdown has finally begun. I have 7 days left to live. To be precise, I have 7 days until I walk out into the wilderness to let nature take its course, so I won't actually die for who knows what, a few days, a week, 2 weeks after that, but be lucky if I make it till Halloween. It's been more than a year and a half since my employer, American Musical Supply, exterminated my life and my family bloodline. And even though apparently I'm such a rotten, horrible person that they had to fire me, there was no alternative whatsoever, right? Of course, they never accused me of doing anything wrong. They never talked to me first after I'd been there for 7 years. Never gave me a reason, but apparently they had to let me go. They couldn't even fire their brand new employees who were terrible. Didn't show up for work, didn't do their job right. They couldn't even get those people fired, but I had to go. Even though they didn't accuse me of doing anything wrong. Except being homeless, of course. It's called discrimination. It's called hate crime. American Musical Supply knew that this would be the outcome because I told them. This is what I experienced 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I had a bona fide miracle from God. The hand of God saved me, and no one can deny that that's what it was. The very day I was leaving for the wilderness to die, a family took me in and ended up getting me that job at American Musical Supply, which is what saved my life. That job, not getting into those people's homes. Getting into the people's homes gave me the necessary infrastructure so that I could get that job. But then I went on and worked that job for 7 years while homeless and living in a car and working my way out of homelessness. I was 2 or 3 years away from being back on my feet in a position of even greater strength than I was before I became homeless. And American Musical Supply destroyed it all. Even though the people I actually worked with on a day-to-day basis for those 7 years, they didn't want me to go. It was people 1,200 miles away who I've never met, whose names I don't even know. They didn't even reveal their names. They're the ones who did this. They're getting away with murder. Right in front of the world's eyes. I ask that you share this video with everyone you know, especially if they're in the news media. Because 1,200 miles away in New Jersey, there are people who caused the death of a human being and the total destruction of their life, a good life, a life well lived. And they did it knowingly, willingly, on purpose. They are the worst of the worst that this species has to offer. And they walk among you right now, freely. They drive among you. They're out there, prowling, looking for someone else to devour. But as for me, I've got 7 days left. It's very cold tonight. Can't say what the temperature is, but I would estimate in the high 30s perhaps, between 35 and 40. We've got the cold, the transitional weather cold, sniffling and runny nose and all that. And that's not going to end probably until I end. I've done all I can do. For a year and a half I posted videos on the American Homeless Holocaust channel. That thing for the first several weeks, 6 weeks or so of it, the subscribers just climbed nice and steady. I got up to 3,200 subscribers, and then all of a sudden the channel was getting sabotaged. And what do you know? for the year since then, I haven't gotten a single new subscriber who YouTube has registered. And with this new channel that I created to put the closing argument in there, which is called At the Trial of AMS, I haven't had one single view yet that wasn't because I directly emailed somebody and gave them the link. So this one's being shadow banned. That's the way Google works. When it analyzes the video, when you upload it, it can recognize from your voice that you're the person who has this channel that they're shadow banning over here. Why are they shadow banning is the question. I'm telling the truth. I'm documenting the truth. I'm showing people that I'm telling the truth. You can see it with your own eyes. It's as truthful and accurate of a channel as you could possibly have, and yet Google's shadow banning it, and I'm describing and presenting to the world a murder, and Google shadow bans that. Why would they do that? The only thing I can really think of is two things. Either they don't like what I'm saying, because if Google doesn't like what you're saying, you're finished as far as YouTube's goes, or somebody somewhere applied some kind of pressure to Google to shadow ban my channel so that nobody would see it. I wonder who might have an interest in doing something like that. Guess I'll have to leave it to the Justice Department to find out. And I've provided them with the information they need to subpoena Google and find out. That's the benefit of having a background in computer science when the people who did this to me do not. They made some mistakes. Unfortunately, the one area where they were in fact successful was their original intent to cause me great, excessive harm and to kill me. So I've got 7 days left before I head out into the wilderness and disappear from this world. And the same absurdity I've had in 10 years of being homeless hasn't changed one bit. Posted the video where I went down to the firehouse, EMS, to ask them some questions about my feet, and they called the police on me. Because heaven forbid, there's a homeless guy out in our parking lot. We're in danger. We're the frontline heroes. We're the courageous ones who risk our lives for everyone. We're in great danger. Send a SWAT team. There's a homeless person in our parking lot, for heaven's sakes. As I walk around, as it gets cold and I have to put on all these clothes, and now I haven't showered in 2 months, haven't washed my hair in 2 months, people just look at me and can tell I'm homeless. And they look and they snarl and they give me these faces, or they'll say something. I'm a guy who a year and a half ago worked at a professional job, basically outperformed 80-ish people in the office, outperformed them. Almost, I was the second oldest in the office. They're that much younger than me. Customers absolutely loved me because I went far beyond what my colleagues did to help them. I was doing all these projects, both personal, artistic projects, just so many things I was doing, dozens. I had dozens of projects on the burner, going all the way back to the 80s. And the ones from the 80s had to wait because I moved to Minnesota 20 years ago and left everything in storage in California. But the thing is, all of that data there, data that I gathered since the 1980s, some of it back to the 70s, but mainly to the 80s, all of that data was invaluable. There are universities out there, billion-dollar universities, funded by billion-dollar National Science Foundation, that are unable to do a 50-year or longer longitudinal study on various things, especially when it comes to the impact of social media on culture, of the news media being corrupted since the 1980s. All of these things that I was studying and I'd gathered all that data on, and now all that data is gone because of American Musical Supply, because of a bunch of nobody putzes at a music store who do nothing with their life except attack homeless people. Because of that, data that I had been gathering for half a century is now gone. either thrown away or being sold to the highest bidder on eBay by total strangers, along with my family photos, my wedding ring, everything to remember my wife by, my wedding video, the only known video of my drum and bugle corps taking 6th place in the world finals, and countless other stuff that represents the first 40 years of my life. That's been gone for a year now. And Public Storage charged me $1,600 for the privilege of selling off everything I owned, including my entire personal life, my diaries, my dream logs going back to childhood. Since I studied neuroscience when I was younger, I've kept a dream log, and what dreams are and what their purpose is has been one of my dozens and dozens and dozens of interests my whole life. That's all gone now, in the hands of total strangers. There's someone sitting in a nice warm home, eating popcorn, reading my personal diaries, my dream log, my correspondence between me and my friends and my lovers, my wife. And those people who did this to me are just sitting in a nice warm bed, completely safe. They think employment at will protects them so that they can get away with murder. The reason I'm leaving these videos behind is so that you can be the ones who make sure that doesn't happen. I need you to contact the news media and let them know about this channel. Let them know, hey, tucked away in the depths of YouTube, where it's being shadow banned by Google deliberately, is a man who's being murdered right in front of the world's eyes. While people are so busy staring at their phones all day, watching videos of cats riding skateboards, there's a whole channel devoted to documenting the murder of a human being, and nobody even knows it because Google will not publicize this to anybody. And again, the question is, why is Google shadow banning it? Who compelled them to shadow ban this channel and my previous one? Who did that? Who has the power to do that? Let me phrase it this way, who has the legal team that could send strongly worded letters to Google to do that? It ain't me, I'll tell you that. It ain't me, folks. Everything from a 58-year life now, 58 years now. When they did this to me, I was 56. My goal was to be a millionaire by the age of 70, and I was well on my way to being there. If they had left me alone, then right now I would be about 1 year away, who knows, maybe 2, but about 1 year away from ending my homelessness in a home of my choosing, not something that social services chooses in some ghetto somewhere, Section 8 housing, but a nice place that I chose, in a state that I chose, with my home recording studio and all of the profit centers that came with that. I would already have had all my stuff back from California that I spent $40,000 to store just so I could lose it to public storage. I would already have all of that back here in Minnesota. And since I would have had my job, it would be like getting a $400 a month raise. That's where I would have been if American Musical Supply had not attacked me, which is what they did. And I documented that on my channel, The American Homeless Holocaust. And instead of me doing that, which I earned, I worked hard for and earned, instead of that, I have things like when I go to a firehouse, they call the police. When I just exist in public, people snarl at me. They don't even know who I am. I will say one thing, and again, that to me this is the hand of God, and I mean that. I don't mean that casually at all. I mean, this is the hand of, this is seeing God. I don't hear voices in my head or anything of that nature. I have a relationship with Jesus, but I don't see God and talk to God and hear God back. I pray to God, and He, you know, like anything else, makes you just know what it is He's telling you. But this is the hand of God, visible in the real world, 4 times in the last year and a half. at just the right moment. Someone has just walked up to me, seen me, somehow figured out my situation, because I didn't always look this bad the whole time, walked over to me and said, "What can I do to help?" And they would buy me some really good food at a time when I was very, very hungry. It was just at those times when I really, really was desperate and needed it. Never saw these people again, never saw them before. They were angels sent by God. There's no rational explanation for that. But that's 4 people out of a year and a half, where the thousands that I've dealt with have mostly been incredibly vicious and rude and deadly toward me. Social services being primary among them. Less than 3 months ago, thanks to social services, they led me into a residential apartment. The first time I have been inside a residential apartment in 10 years. I walked in, I walked on the shag carpet. I saw the floorboards and the little heater. I saw the windows. I walked into a bedroom, a kitchen. Granted, a small one. It only had about a 1-foot square countertop. It had a bathroom. The toilet was completely yellow inside and out. It was a ghetto, but it was a residential apartment for the first time ever. That's after the bait and switch that social services pulled, because they pulled me into filling out the paperwork for that by promising, or at least offering, a brand newly built right here in Burnsville that I'm familiar with. Nice, quiet, brand new facilities that were created for people 55 years and older, which is great for someone who likes to do things with their life, doesn't just sit around and watch television all day. But that was bait and switch. Instead, the apartment they sent me to was that one, the ghetto one out near one of the most dangerous cities in the country, here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. So yeah, it was a dump, but it was the first time I've been in a residential apartment in 10 years. And the promise was, "Hey, Paul, this can be yours. Just sign on the dotted line. But whatever you do, don't read the fine print, and whatever you do, don't ask any questions. Because if you do, we'll dump you into the streets." And that's exactly what social services did. The reason I'm out here in the cold, preparing to die at this moment, well, of course, is because of American Musical Supply. But the reason it's happening right now in this configuration is because of social services itself. These sick and twisted people took someone who has not been in a residential apartment in 10 years, brought him into that nice, warm, cozy place, said, "This could be your home." And you don't know what the word home means until you haven't had one for 10 years. And then they pulled the rug out from under me almost immediately after that, a few days later, when I read the fine print and I asked the questions that a grown, responsible adult and a good citizen and someone who obeys the law should ask. These people were trying to trick me. They were trying to suck me into something that could have destroyed my life, even worse than this, down the line, for their own purposes. But I'm a professional. I know to read the fine print. I know to ask certain questions, and I did. Social services punished me for that. I don't deserve this. But everything out there is corruption. Everything is lies. Everything is self-serving. It's not about other people. Sincerely. I have those 4 people who came up and helped me out of nowhere, the hand of God, and I've had a group of people at these stores, basically minimum wage people, whose hearts are so big, it's amazing. When I look at those people and I see what's inside of them, and I look at the people surrounding me and I see what's inside of them, those lowly nobodies who work in gas stations and things like that are elevated mountaintops above Minnesota legislators, Governor Walz, social services, lawyers and attorneys, police officers, and certainly frontline hero fire and EMS personnel who call the police on homeless people. Those little, quote, nobodies are better than the whole lot of those other people put together. The news media who won't talk about this. Those people are superior to all those well-dressed attorneys riding around in these BMWs. They've kept me alive. It's the hand of God. He's using the salt of the earth. And if he's going to do that, I'm going to tell people about it, and that's what I'm doing on this channel. Got 7 days left. Over the weekend, I had to go 20 hours outside because the library, where I can get a study room and have internet access to do anything at all, such as posting these videos or trying to publicize them. 20 hours I have to wait from the time the library closes until it opens again because of their really bad hours. Closing at 8 p.m. and then not opening the next day until 1 o'clock, and then only being open for 4 hours before they close again, and I have to wait another 16 hours before I can go back again. I spend the better part of 72 hours every week around the weekends just outside so that I can get perhaps 12 hours inside of the library where it's warm and dry and I have internet access and I can get these kinds of things done. Out of 72 hours, I get about 12 hours. But the people who are not at work at the library there, and I'm telling you right now, friends, some of those librarians down there are the worst ostiteophobes I have ever encountered in my life. These people hate homeless people, including the woke ones, the ones who walk around wearing masks and acting like children, these woke people. Just bitter, snarling, hateful, spiteful people who are incapable of smiling or happiness or joy. You go in there and you're like, "Hi, good morning, how you doing?" They just give you the treatment. Look at you, make you feel like absolute garbage. They just ruin your entire day. Those people have homes and they have cars. And yet, where are they in those 72 hours? They're not at work because the library's not even open. So why do they have homes? But me, the guy who's trying to work every waking moment on things like this, I don't have a home. Just like when I had my job at American Musical Supply, I was the only person there when I helped to open the office 7 years earlier who worked overtime the entire 7 years. So we've learned one thing here. Hard work does not lead to success. There's something else that goes with the hard work. One thing would be like the backstabber at work. Just be a very attractive young female. Completely vapid, have absolutely nothing going on. Be a liar, misrepresent yourself, probably be a hardcore drug addict, and just a total narcissist who only cares about yourself. You just present yourself to the world. That's like in that video game Planet Coaster, there's a mascot called Princess Amelie. And she just walks around and the only thing she does is just be Princess Amelie. You don't know who she is or what her personality is, what her thoughts are, what her history, experience is, what has she done with her life. You don't know. She just is Princess Amelie, and because of that, all the kids want to go up there and meet her. And she just stands there and goes, "Hi, hi, hi, hi." And she just walks around the theme park doing that her entire existence, and everybody comes running to see it because she's her. That's what this backstabber was at work. She hasn't done a damn thing with her life that's productive. It's all self-serving. She wasn't working overtime like I was. She was working part-time, and she's not even a musician in this music store that advertises to the public that we're musicians. I've been a musician since I was 3 years old. I'm not even going to try to count how many instruments I can play right now, because I sat down for hundreds and thousands of hours over my life and learned how to do that. I put in the effort. You would think I would have a job at a music store, wouldn't you? But nope, not me. American Musical Supply got rid of me because I'm homeless. But they kept the physically attractive girl who is one car accident away from being no longer an attractive girl. She's a couple of years of aging away from being no longer an attractive girl. That's how stupid people are. They'll give her anything she wants in life because of what she looks like when she is nothing. She's nothing. She doesn't do anything. She has no purpose to her existence. Except for the cartels, keep them in business perhaps. And that's what American Musical Supply wanted to support. So that's how I end up here. For all the things I did with my whole life, more than half a century, I end up here being murdered by a music store. And let me be clear, let me be absolutely clear. It is not some non-human entity on paper called a corporation that did this to me. It is fellow human beings, my equals. The ones in New Jersey wouldn't even identify themselves, the cowards. They're killing a man intentionally, deliberately, and they don't even reveal who they are. It just doesn't get any lower than that. They are the scum of the earth, and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I know the names of the two here that I worked with in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, the local HR rep and the backstabber. Backstabber's clique of friends that they were dumb enough to hire into the same department. Not exactly good business decision there. Those people, those individuals are the ones who committed this hate crime. They are the reason I am here doing this. It's not what I was doing. What I was doing was pleasing my managers and supervisors. It was making my customers so happy that they kept wanting to be able to tell the company to give me a raise and to let them know what a great job I did, even though the company didn't want to hear that. That's what the things that I did led to. But the things that they did led to me being out here starving to death in the freezing cold, knowing that 7 days from now, my resources will be precisely zero, and I have no choice, even though I don't want to die, than to go out into the wilderness and let nature take me away, because I cannot kill myself, and I will not kill myself, and I can't emphasize this enough. If and when they find my body out there, I cannot kill myself. I will not kill myself. I have a religious prohibition against it. I have no right to take a life that God created. I wanted to live. I lived better and more happily and more productively than most people do. No drugs and alcohol, no television, another drug. No cell phone, smartphone, staring at that all day, another drug. None of that. I did things with my entire life from the time I was a little tiny kid. And my life gets annihilated by a bunch of nobodies like this who do nothing with their life but just go out and attack people who they don't like because of this mindless bigotry. People 1,200 miles away who don't even know me like the people I worked with did. And they just see on paper that I'm homeless, and we can't have that. And the laws of the land allow them to get rid of me because of that. Employment at will. But those laws do not allow them to commit murder. And that's where they made their mistake. They used employment at will as the murder weapon. They are murderers. They've already completely destroyed my life. It is gone. That alone should be a $100 million lawsuit. That alone. The most total extermination, deliberate extermination of a human life since the European Holocaust. Nothing is left in my life, and I had built more than most people would ever have, even though I was homeless. And they took every single bit of it away. Left me and a camera to freeze and starve to death as the Minnesota winter begins. 7 days I have left. So I thought I'd document these 7 days, say what's on my mind. My last testament, you might say. When I was in high school, I was on different, like the tennis team, the wrestling team. I was more into music than sports. But one day, just for fun, I went out and ran over some hurdles that were in the parking lot, and the track coach called me over and said, "Do that again." So I went out there and did it again, and they put me on the track team because apparently I was just really good at it naturally. And I remember running one race, you know, win some, lose some. This one I was winning. But after I went over all the hurdles, pretty sure this was low hurdles, and I got pretty close to the finish line and I tripped and I wiped out. And all those people who I was ahead of passed by me and crossed the line. And I remember just rolling, and I didn't stop, and I wouldn't let my momentum stop, and I kept rolling my body and cutting my body up until I finally put my hand over that line. Because no matter what takes me down, I'm still going to finish that race. And that's exactly what I'm doing with these videos. To the very last breath I have in my body that I'm able, I'm going to tell the world what these people did to me, and I'm going to call for justice. But I've done all I can do, and nobody's listened. I need you to take it from here, to care, to do the right thing, to be good people, not bad people. Subscribe to this channel, like these videos, share it with other people, send it to the news media, send it to the Justice Department, send it to the Hennepin County Prosecutor's Office in Minnesota, send it to the Eden Prairie Police, those pathetic people who would do nothing about a murder in their own jurisdiction. Lazier than a homeless man. Send it to Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, the guy who smiles and holds up the terrorist cookbook. He won't do anything. He's a lazy bum. But send it to him anyway, because that will condemn him when he does nothing about it. Don't even bother sending it to Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz. He's so useless, it's not even worth it. Not even worth it. If you need a tampon in your mail, go to Tim. He'll help you out. If you need a shower and you're human, no. No. Well, at least talking into this camera gets my blood boiling. Keeps me a little warmer, because once I turn this off and I sit down in this cold, it ain't going to be pretty. And thank goodness the weekend's over, so now I get 3 days where you have relatively normal hours at the library and I can get something done. That's all I can do. If I had a home with internet access, I would have almost 24 hours a day to get this stuff done. Like when I was in the hotel, when social services had me in the hotel, I was incredibly productive. Social services saw it as being completely unproductive. It's because they don't understand anything about the way the world works. They just wanted to suck me into their welfare system, become a slave to that system. That's not me. I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave. My ancestors fought and died for freedom. And in a way, that's what I'm doing here. That social service system needs to be burned to the ground and rebuilt as something that is designed to succeed versus what they have now, which is something that is designed to fail, designed just to keep those jobs for those social workers. And they might help a homeless person or they might kill a homeless person, but it doesn't matter to them because the homeless person isn't the issue. It's them and their jobs that matter. This has got to stop. So to my last breath, as I try to put my hand over that finish line, I'm going to make these videos and I'm going to do everything I can before I die to try to help those 3 to 4 million homeless people, 1% of the American population, while all the liars out there try to convince you that it's less than 1 million homeless in America. Absolutely ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. I am homeless. I've been homeless for 10 years. Here in Minnesota, they do a census. That's how they count the number of homeless people. Half the homeless people I've met have never, ever been counted in a census. So that means the numbers are at least twice what they're reporting. And I think it's even more than that. Same thing is true nationally. It's millions of people who are homeless. And you know what? That's enough people. If you know anything about business and economics, 1% of your population has been disenfranchised and is subject to legal employment discrimination, and the government agencies are mandated to discriminate against those people. When that happens to 1% of a nation's population, that has a direct impact on that nation's entire economy. There's a homeless guy in Minnesota who's freezing to death and starving to death who is talking about something that affects the economy of the most powerful nation the world has ever known. And no matter how much he's trying to help, the President of the United States sitting in the Oval Office is absolutely oblivious to this because he's never lived this way. He can't conceive of living this way. So tell him as well, because at least he's a man who will do something about it if he ever learns about it. But how's he going to know if nobody tells him? I've tried to tell people here for years, and all I get is shadow banned by Google, because Google doesn't want you finding out either. Believe me, they want you pumping, in Minnesota, $22 billion a year into that social service system that does nothing but keep social service people employed. It uses us as fodder in their war. We are exploited so that they get what they want, these liberal leftists. And this isn't about politics. I don't care about left, right, especially as you're dying. You realize how pointless all that nonsense is. But the fact is, those people on the left are the ones who exploit the poor and the homeless. The ones on the right generally care much more sincerely. They just don't do anything. But at least they don't do anything to hurt us either. But the leftists do everything they can to hurt us and to herd us like animals, to treat us like lab rats with their academic fads. This housing first nonsense. I've documented this for 10 years in my various YouTube channels. Who listened? You can watch a cat ride a skateboard. Well, folks, you get what you deserve. If that's what you're going to spend your time on, don't be surprised when the world falls apart around you. Because there were people out there who were trying to tell you the truth the whole time, and you weren't listening. I hope you're listening now. But most likely, anybody watching this is just getting a thrill out of watching a person die. Schadenfreude. And hey, if that's what draws you here, more power to you. Go to your bedroom with a bottle of Vaseline, watch me die, have fun. Hey, why not? But if you'd rather be a good person, if you'd rather be somebody who actually matters in your life, the only life you'll ever live, if you would like to be something that had a purpose to your existence, then you might consider at least sending this to the Justice Department, sending this to the news media, sending it to the FBI, and demanding that those people who murdered me right in front of your eyes are investigated, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to wearing an orange jumpsuit for the rest of their lives. Because that's what they deserve. They committed the crime, not me. So why am I the one being punished? It's because nobody out there will do anything, and I can't do it alone. I'll see you tomorrow when I have 6 days left to live.